Keith Nestor. Welcome back to Hands On Apologetics.
Hey, Gary, thanks so much for having me. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, it's good seeing you. I know you've been a really busy person this summer. Doing a lot of traveling?
Yeah, we've been doing a ton of traveling. It's been awesome. We were just in Pennsylvania last week for our annual stewardship conference with the ministries that I work with through stewardship. And we're getting ready for the Christ Our Life conference in Des Moines this weekend. We've been going crazy, but yeah, I've been keeping busy. How about yourself?
Oh, rocking and rolling here in the dojo. Been very, very busy myself, doing talks and so on. So yeah, we both been busy. But nevertheless, I'm glad we're able to meet up.
Me too.
Your brand new book on the mysteries of the Rosary. Keith, since it's been a little while since you've been on the show, maybe you could give us a short, thumbnail sketch about how you, a convert to the Catholic faith, ended up having a devotion to the Rosary.
Well, it started when I was in my process of conversion. I'd already made the decision that I was going to become Catholic. I didn't go through RCIA. I did kind of a private thing with my priest where we would meet weekly and go through different things. And while I was working on that, I was trying to make some decisions about what kind of Catholic I was going to be. Because as a convert, there were some things about the Catholic Church that I felt very easy to step into, and other things that were maybe a little more challenging, more so culturally, because I hadn't been a part of it. And the Rosary was certainly one of those things that was going to be more challenging to me. And I wasn't sure if I was going to actually become like that kind of Catholic that was going to pray the Rosary, which may shock some people, because not every Catholic has a devotion to the Rosary or prays the Rosary.
Right.
And I made the decision that I didn't want to come into this having already decided what I would and wouldn't do. And so one day I decided, okay, I'm just going to start praying the Rosary privately with an app. And I started doing that every day alone without any sort of group or any kind of fanfare or anything like that. And I was learning it and growing into it and appreciating it. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how it got started for me. That was, I think, in 2017.
Oh, yeah, a while ago. Yeah. And ultimately, that leads to you doing leading a rosary prayer on the internet as well.
Yeah, there was a kind of a big step there, wasn't it?
Yeah,
from being a guy who and I had been asked to lead the rosary before, and I'd always said no because I didn't feel comfortable with that. I didn't feel like I could do a good job. What I knew about the rosary was that it was a powerful prayer, but I'd also seen a lot of people pray it that I sort of, maybe I shouldn't have, but I judged whether or not they were really praying it with meaning, because it just seemed like this robotic religious thing they just rattled off. And I couldn't imagine how anybody could really be truly engaging in the heartfelt prayer when it was just so fast and so methodical and just boom, 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 boom. And I would hear people say things like, yep, I got my rosary in today, or I knocked out my rosary, or I said my rosary. And I was very hesitant to that. So What happened was I had just returned from a speaking engagement in Louisiana, and the pandemic had begun and churches were shutting down, and our church had celebrated its last mass. The shutdown was going on. I went on YouTube and just made a little live stream one day and said, hey, how's everybody doing out there? Can we pray? And someone in the live stream said, hey, Keith, we would like to know if you'll pray the Rosary live on your YouTube channel tomorrow, and maybe during this 14-day period where we're going to shut the world down. That's what we thought back then.
Right.
And I had to make a split decision on the spot. Was I going to do that? And I didn't want to let all these people down. So I said, okay, I can figure this out. I can do this. Because I've been asked to do it before, but I always said no because I was afraid I'd mess it up.
Yeah, right.
But I thought, I've got a day. I can print some stuff out. I'm not standing in front of a big crowd of people. I can have a sheet, a readout, or whatever to make sure at the very least I don't, forget something. So we started that on March 18th of 2020, and we've been doing every single day since. As you all know, the 14 days still a spread really was a little bit longer than that. And we're still doing it. And it's been an incredible prayer community that we've seen grow, and it spans the globe. We've got 80 countries. We've got thousands of people every day, and it's become pretty much the center of what I do is related to leading the Rosary. And now we have our own separate YouTube channel called Rosary Crew with Keith Nestor. We've got a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week live looping rosary where people are in there constantly leading intentions and praying for one another. My wife and I travel around in an RV, which we call the Rosary Vehicle. I know, not very original, but and we live stream the Rosary different places that we go. And it's, we haven't missed a day in over 2.5 years.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So it just like exploded, just you stepped down in faith and this whole new world opened up for you.
It's been incredible. And I never would have seen this coming. I never would have planned it myself. And that's when it's from the Lord, is when God puts you in a position. And really the only question is, will you do it? Not whether you're qualified, because I certainly didn't feel qualified. Not whether you really want to do it. I didn't have the desire to do it, but I did feel called to do it. And I mean, that's not holding myself up. There's been plenty of other times in my life where I haven't followed the call of God. But in this instance, for whatever reason, I did. And it's just become this incredible thing. And honestly, I couldn't imagine my life without it right now. It's been amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So this puts you in a unique position because you, as an adult, you enter into the Catholic Church, you have no experience with the Rosary. This devotion begins. Mm-hmm. So you're in a unique position to see this, to assess the spiritual fruits, where as a cradle Catholic who's always been familiar with the Rosary, the spiritual fruits are always there, but you might not recognize them.
I mean? That's true. That's true. I can point to a real line in the sand moment where I began to experience the fruit of this in my life. And, I'm by no means perfect, but I have, just as a new Catholic, I have experienced so much grace and transformation, and I attribute it to the Rosary, the grace I've received from that, and the way that God has used that in my life. It's completely changed me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So is that the impetus for writing this book, or is there another reason you decided to put this in the book form?
Well, what's interesting is, everyone leads the Rosary differently. And when I was leading the Rosary, as we started working through the different mysteries, I found myself giving short meditations on each of the mysteries so that people could focus in and interact with them and step in to those mysteries. That's how I believe we're supposed to pray the Rosary. I don't think we're supposed to just announce the mystery and just fly through it. I think there needs to be some thought and some meditation given to those mysteries. Oh, yeah. And so I began to share just brief little meditations or some thoughts to help people in that. And when I started doing that, it was interesting. Some people hated that. They would send me messages and say, Keith, you shouldn't be doing that. You're not supposed to insert any of your own private thoughts into the Rosary, into the meditation. Now, keep in mind, I'm not inserting anything into the prayers.
Right.
But after each mystery, I would say just a couple things, and then we'd launch into the prayers. And some people said, no, that's inappropriate. You shouldn't do that. Well, other people were saying, Keith, thanks for doing that. That helped me so much. That really helped me to make the Rosary practical in my life and help me to enter into it. And I just sort of decided, well, I'm just going to go with that. So I began to do that. And as that would grow, I began to sort of sense these different themes and these ideas, and they're not always the same, but it really helped me. And I think it helped give our group a little bit of an identity around that. Well, then one summer I was asked to give a talk on the mysteries of the Rosary at a parish. And I started to compile some of those meditations that I had been giving to create this talk. And the talk was going to be like 2 hours. I was like, there's a lot here. And I had to cut so much out, and I had to pare it down. And I remember as I was compiling that and creating these notes, thinking this should be a book, because I'd never seen a book like that before. Not that I'm familiar with every Rosary book there is out there. I'm sure there's something, but I'd never seen a book that was like what I was coming up with. So then that created the idea within me to maybe write a Rosary book about the mysteries and the spiritual fruits and what it's like to truly enter into that prayer. So that's where the idea came from. And I would say that's probably 2 years ago where that struck me.
Wow. That's great. Yeah. Because even so, the beautiful thing about conversion stories is that it enables Catholics to see the church from the outside looking in, And
Sure.
You as a convert who fell in love with the Rosary, It's like your approach to the mysteries are likewise, it's fresh, and it's like you see with fresh eyes. So it adds like a different dimension that I think you would get in a typical like devotion book written by a Catholic.
Yeah, because for me, I start at square one with these mysteries. I talk about what was it like for the angel Gabriel to come and visit the Blessed Virgin Mary, for example, with the joyful mysteries. And I'll talk about what that was like, the spiritual fruit of that mystery being humility, how drawing near to the Blessed Virgin Mary in that mystery and meditating on it is going to cause us to be humble. And to me, I look at it like almost like a Bible study, like a mini Bible study through each of these events. And I'll pull the scripture out and interact with it and talk about it, and then share some examples from my own life or some things I've thought of or from other people's lives and on how these things have come together. And I really like to think about it in terms of this journey that we go on, because that's really what the Rosary is. It's a journey that we partake in through these particular mysteries that help us to meditate on the life of Christ and his mother. And the goal of that is always to help us to become more holy. And when we truly walk that road with a mindset of, God, I want to enter into this, what we find is that it enters into us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, with Rosary, it's not just mechanical prayer, it's also meditation and then ultimately contemplation, like you mentioned, where God speaks to us in a profound way in prayer.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And I find that to be the case, for me daily when we are praying the Rosary. Some of the most impactful moments I have in my own personal faith walk, where I feel the Lord speaking to me the most, happen in the midst of meditating on those mysteries. God shows me something new all the time.
Absolutely. We're chatting with Keith Nestor and talk about his brand new book, Unpacking the Mysteries of the Rosary. More to come right after this.